Okay, hello. Welcome to Spiro Wars. My name is Kate Saunders and I am here to talk to you about autoimmune conditions. So first of all, just a tiny bit about myself. Who am I? Where have I come from? Basically, I am a singer and also a jeweler and an artist. I'm 35 years old and I have been suffering with fibromyalgia for most of my adult life. To give you a bit of a background about it, when I was 18, I had my first costochondritis attack. And basically what costochondritis is, it's very similar to having a heart attack. Or certainly what you imagine it's like to have a heart attack. A lot of chest pain, real struggle to breathe. And this came out of the blue, very worrying at the time. I ended up going into hospital at the age of 23, I think I was, for the first time, because I had such excruciating pains. And I had another visit to hospital a few years later after that, and the whole time I was going to my GP, I was having multiple tests, going to hospital, and they just couldn't figure out what it was. And I think this is one of the things that we hear about people with autoimmune diseases all the time, that the idea that they have tests and then it's like, oh, I don't know what it is, they don't know what it is, and this is very distressing for everybody in these situations. So over the years it's become very difficult, and certainly the last 3 years for me has been profoundly difficult. I had a lot of arthritic pain in my arms to the point where I couldn't cut up my own food, I couldn't pick up a kettle, I couldn't open the fridge. Very, very frustrating and very worrying. My husband, Duncan, has been incredible looking after me for the last 3 years as I deteriorated pretty quickly. Last year, I got to the point where I had these things called trigger points, which are like quite hard muscular lumps which start to spasm. I had trigger points in my legs, so much so that there were days when I couldn't walk. It was really, really bad. And it just came to a halt, really. It was just like, okay, I need to do something about this drastically. With the advent of the internet, it's such an amazing thing, because I started researching more and more about the condition and speaking to people online. I got a lot of pals on Facebook from all over the world, from a jewellery community, and some of my friends, a couple of my friends have Lyme disease. So they said, wow, your symptoms are so similar to what we have. And being from the UK, I didn't know anything about Lyme disease. So I started looking it up and I looked at the symptoms and I was like, wow, yeah, these really are very similar kind of arthritic pains in the arms, back pains, the trigger points, a lot of fatigue. And that was it, the link between fibromyalgia and Lyme disease. It was like, wow, these are very similar. And you start to look at other autoimmune conditions and you see these similarities again and again. So really, I really had to knuckle down, because we're living in France at the moment, and the French system, we went to the doctors and we just had pretty much the same response to what we get in the UK. I'd been put on amitriptyline a long time ago, which is a common treatment for fibromyalgia. And what this helps to do is it stops muscular spasm. But unfortunately, at the same time, what this does is it makes you very, very drowsy. So for me, taking amitriptyline was just a big no-no. And really, my symptoms had just become so bad. It was like, wow, we need to do something pretty quick. You know, I got to the point where I was taking Valium for the pain and trying to get the muscles to relax. I was having costochondritis, these kind of heart attacks every day, generally after meal times, and to the point where I was so scared to eat because I knew that I was going to have all these chest pains. And they were just terrible, really, really distressing for myself and for my partner. So I started researching more and more about these conditions, and I looked into Lyme disease. And what I learned about Lyme, one of the first things that you'll learn about when you start researching it on the net, is just a background about what it is. And you know, many people know that Lyme comes from a tick bite. And from that, what you get is an infection, a bacterial infection of a spirochete. So I looked up these spirochetes to find a little bit more. And these spirochetes, you know, you can kind of guess by the name, it's like a spiral. And that's what they look like. They look like these long, wiggly worms, and they kind of move like this. And they're incredible things because they, due to the nature of their motility, the way that they move, they travel very well throughout the body. So as I was reading about these spirochetes, I also read about a type of spirochete called Treponema denticola. Treponema denticola originates in the mouth and is generally linked to periodontal disease. Now, I don't know if you guys can see from there, I won't get too close to the camera because it is kind of frightening, but I've had all manner of terrible dental problems over the years. Since I was a really, really young kid, it was like I was just destined to have bad teeth. So a couple of friends of ours said, you know, you should really get your teeth looked into because root canals are really bad for you. And I was like, yeah, I know they're not very nice, but how much damage, you know, can a root canal do? So I started looking up about these root canals, and then I made this connection between this kind of bacteria, the Treponema denticola, and going, oh, it's the spirochete. Oh, wait a minute, Lyme disease, that's also caused by a spirochete. It's just a different type of spirochete. So I decided to have my root canals removed. I knew they were infected. I was in the UK 4 years ago, and the dentist that I went to, he said, you know what, I want to refer you to a specialist. I want him to check out your root canals because I know that they're infected, and we'll see what he says. You know, what the next stage is and what we need to do with them. So I developed almost like these kind of little blisters on my gum, and these are called fistulas. And I knew it wasn't right. And I went to see the specialist, and he said, well, you know what, you haven't got any pain in your teeth, so, you know, as long as you haven't got any pain, I don't want to do any work on these root canals because, you know, it's a lengthy process. You have to have the tooth removed, and then you would have to have an implant. And I was like, oh God, you know, this just sounds like a nightmare, really. So he said, you know, you're okay. You better just leave it and, you know, see how you get on. So I walked away, and you know what, you trust these guys. It's the same with the doctors. You listen to the doctor and you just go, you know what, this is cool. If this is what the specialist has said, these guys know their job. Why would I know any better? But it was kind of weird because you think it's infected, and I could feel these blisters. It's like I could feel the infection, but I left it. I listened to the guy and left it. So the friends that we were speaking to here, they were just saying, you know, these root canals are really bad, and you should have them checked out. So I went online and again started researching, thinking, you know what, I've exhausted all possibilities with this fibromyalgia, I need help, you know what, I'll check out these root canals. And it seemed like a big conspiracy. You go online and you put in root canal conspiracy and you start reading this stuff. It's very controversial, but really ultimately there was part of my instinct just going, you know, this isn't right. Why would you want to have something that is infected in your body? And when you have a root canal done, the interior of the tooth is taken out and essentially you have a dead tooth left in your body. And it's filled back up, it's plugged up, and then you just carry on. So what happens is it does start to harbour bacteria. And that's it. These teeth, two of my teeth became infected. And I wanted to have them taken out. It's like, I need to have these teeth taken out. It's like, I need to have all avenues covered. If this is what's causing the problem, let's just, it doesn't matter, you know, just take them out. So this is why I have a big gap back here, and this tooth at the moment is actually a false tooth, which is made from thermoplastic, but that's a story for another day. So I do have a massive gap here, which I won't take the tooth out to scare you with. So I had these teeth removed last year, and I am feeling a whole lot better. But still, how does this relate to Lyme, and how does this relate to other autoimmune conditions? Well, basically, I found that my system, you know, if you imagine that your body's has been fighting an infection for 15 years, over 15 years, you can imagine that there is an imbalance. It's been struggling and it needs to recover. And so what we did is we started to give my immune system all the things that it needs. And the main things are just having a really great diet. Loads of fruit, loads of veg. I started juicing every day. All these things which are going to boost the immune system. I started to look into, you know, how do we fight bacteria? Well, I didn't want to take any more medication from the doctors. I tried taking doxycycline before, which is one of the many ways of treating Lyme. And it made me very sick. It's quite a potent thing to take, and also it really destroys your gut flora. So I wanted to try a more kind of holistic approach, and that's really where I want to be going with these videos, is just to try and help people get their autoimmune condition, just make it controllable. You know what, the thing that I hear about Lyme so often is it's never something you completely get rid of. And that's it. That's what I'm going to say about all these types of what I think are infections. I think all autoimmune diseases are down to different types of infection. So trying to kill these spirochetes in my body, first of all, I needed to make sure that my immune system was as strong as possible. So over you know, the next few videos, I'm going to be going into more depth about what kind of supplements that you can take. I'm going to be talking about this amazing thing called resveratrol, which some of you might have heard of, which is a wine derivative. And it's probably the reason why wine has this like, whoa, red wine kind of is an amazing thing, and you never hear a bad thing about it. You know, and I live in France, so, you know, I see all these old folks who seem to be about 1,000 years, and you think, yeah, that's because they've been drinking this red wine. So resveratrol is one of the key things we're going to be looking at. And we're also going to be looking at natural antibiotics. One of the main things that I come across when I talk to people about Lyme disease is that, you know, for starters, without getting too much into the politics of it on this video, one of the key problems is actually getting doctors to recognize that A, Lyme exists, but B, chronic Lyme exists. So to be able to get long-term antibiotics is very difficult, and it's very expensive, especially if you're in America. So what we're going to be looking at is alternative natural antibiotics. Now, unfortunately, you know, in our society, we're very much told, you must listen to the doctor knows best. Now, the problem with this is that, you know, doctors, they train very hard, but they are very much told, this is the way you treat this condition. These are the pills that you give out for this condition. And all of these are created by what we call big pharma. These are the big corporate companies that are making the medicines. So when something is natural, you know, and possibly used in other cultures, like for example, I take something called neem leaf extract. Neem, that's N-E-E-M. Very, very interesting thing. Neem is used in Ayurvedic medicine, so it's massive in India. It's like a kind of all-round, wow, this is amazing, it'll just kill anything, any kind of bacteria. It's brilliant. Something like that is you won't get this from your doctor. It's just not a possibility. They go, okay, well, you know, we've got amoxicillin, we've got doxycycline, we've got clindamycin. They'll give you a whole load of stuff that they are allowed to give you. But there are plenty of amazing natural antibiotics out there that are available to us for not huge amounts of money. It's very easy to supplement your diet with these antibiotics. And it's about finding the right ones for you, but there's many out there, so we're going to be talking more and more about these kind of antibiotics. So that's my little introduction. I hope you come back for another video. Thank you for bearing with me. This is my first time doing these kind of videos. I'm not a doctor, so it's not very technical, and I hope you'll be able to follow it all. So I'll see you on the next one.